heavy metal perspective. From Danzig to Death, to Dark Throne to Dr. Shrinker. Buckle up, things are about to get heavy. This is the Metal Podcast. Let's rock and roll.
And welcome to the Metal Podcast, a show that is, in my opinion, the greatest show on the internet. And I don't think that is hyperbole. I am AC, and I am joined by our newly married man, DJ. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thank you for that nice little shout out. Newly married and hopefully forever married. How are you doing today, AC?
I'm great, and I'm just ready to rock and roll. We have another guest for the Guitars for Vets project, Taylor Ullom. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. So glad to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me.
So, what have you been listening to lately?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I listen to everything. I put on Spotify, I hit spin and I let it play. You know, a little Taylor Swift pops out now and then. But I'm an old rock girl, so like Rat, a little Ozzy here and there, a little Megadeth, little Metallica.
Ooh.
Yeah. Kind of stuff like that, old school. But actually, what just came up recently, and I'm trying to remember what triggered it. I was trying to explain to my daughter Sebastian Bach and Skid Row. Oh, I think we were at a trivia game. And I was like, no, that's Skid Row. And she's like, who's Skid Row? And I'm like, oh, God, I failed you as a parent. Right. But I'm listening to music every day, and I listen to a lot of things, and I'm just always open to explore new bands and different styles of music. And I remember my son coming to me with like August Burns Red, and the first time I heard that, I was like, what is this?
Blasphemy.
Right now, when I get really angry, I'm like, I get it now. I get it. So anyways, that's a little bit of what I'm listening to.
Are you okay with the Taylor Swift popping up?
Yeah, I am. I respect her as a songwriter. I respect her as a businesswoman. I've pretty much watched her grow up and go after what she wants, you know. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Some people hate her, some people love her. I don't listen to a lot of her music. I think the stuff that I'm familiar with is stuff that just is playing on the radio, going around TikTok or whatever, you know, but I don't know the lore behind it all. I'm not a Swiftie. Don't tell her I said that, though, in case she wants to donate money.
I won't tell her.
Yeah, we'll put out a good word.
But I was thinking this morning, do you know what I was thinking this morning? I thought, I wonder, like, what would it be like if she came out with a metal album next?
Well, that'll never happen.
Little metal collaboration.
But that does remind me. Remember when Avril Lavigne did that terrible cover of that terrible Metallica song, Fuel?
So see, anything's possible.
Well, Avril Lavigne had that weird reputation of being like a rocker chick. I mean, one, she's no Joan Jett, and two, she wore like a tie without a collared shirt, so people said she was like a rocker. But I remember when I first heard the song Complicated, I was like, this is like a country song. This was like a Faith Hill song. Like, this is supposed to be like a tough rocker. Like all of her songs, I've never heard something so bubblegum.
Yes, bubblegum.
Yeah, and they tried to paint her because she wore like a lot of eyeliner and she wore a tie, but then she did this cover of Fuel. Oh, it's so bad.
She wasn't even quite punk.
No, she wasn't.
Tried to pull her off a little bit as like a punk, you know, skater punk.
Yeah,
she was almost like the like modern Taylor Swift. Like I can see her doing That Girl Is on Fire. Like that could absolutely be an Avril Lavigne song. Because there are female acts, like what's that band? I think it's called the Descendants. I think that was the band. It was the girl that was married to the singer for Rancid. Her name, I want to say her name is Brody Stevens? Brody something. Maybe at one point she was Brody Armstrong because the guy was Tim Armstrong. And it was a punk band. But when you look at female like rock acts, and then you look at Avril Lavigne, because I think that the moment when everyone hates country, like when people talk about like hating country, they're not talking about like Johnny Cash or Hank Williams or even like George Strait or even Garth Brooks. What they're talking about is this like poppy stuff. It's like pop with a southern twang, and
it's overproduced.
Yes,
it's that kind of.
It's made for the radio, like to get
Absolutely
the wide net. And it's that song by Faith Hill, the way you love me.
No, that has to do with the movie Practical Magic. I will tell you the magic behind that song, and it's in the movie Practical Magic, and there's a cult following, and that's why that's a hit.
I don't know anything about that movie, so I'll take your word for it. Maybe DJ's seen it.
I haven't.
Okay.
I guarantee you, his wife probably knows all about it.
His wife is a youngin, and not like young, but much younger than him.
Yeah,
she might still know. It's making its way around TikTok again. Just
in that case, then
it's on TikTok. I didn't know the movie was 60 seconds long, but that song is not a country song. Like, that is a pop song, and I think that's what kind of shaped future country. And maybe it was because of that movie.
So I don't know how old you guys are, but there was this uproar when Amy Grant went from Christian to pop music, and they were like, she crossed genres. And from where she went from Christian music to what do they call it, secular music, music. Yeah, for sure. And so when women started, that was in the 90s, I think people probably have always slipped across genres, because I think boxing people into genres is stupid, but it's marketable. And, but yeah, it was such a rebellious thing to do that. But I mean, to see, like even Taylor Swift started off country. Yeah. She got her foot in the door, and now she's this mega pop star.
Oh yeah.
She couldn't be
further from country. Speaking of women and music and stuff, I was trying to think, like, growing up, what women did I see in metal?
Lita Ford.
Lita. She was
Lita Ford is the female Ozzy Osbourne.
I don't know if I quite agree with that, but I can appreciate your point of view. But I will tell you, the first guitar I ever got was like this black electric Yamaha guitar. I lived in Okinawa, Japan at the time. I didn't really know how to play guitar. I just wanted to really play guitar, and I carried this thing around everywhere. So people started calling me Lita, So I was like, yeah, I'm a rock star who does not know how to play this guitar.
You're like Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
Or the Go-Go's.
Yeah, the Go-Go's.
Their first tour, they did not know how to play their instruments.
That's funny.
Yes.
Nancy Wilson, though, growing up with her. Joan Jett, for sure. Love Joan Jett. I've still seen her perform. Every time she comes around.
Who sang The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia?
Originally?
The one in the 70s.
That was Vicky. What was her name? Vicky. She was on the Carol Burnett show. She played Mama.
I don't
Vicky
know.
something.
The Carol Burnett show might be before my time.
But she was the original person who sang that song. Reba did the cover of it.
I did not know about the Reba one.
You've never heard that by Reba?
No, I just know the one from the 70s. I don't think I've ever heard a song by Reba McEntire, but my whole life I've known who Reba McEntire is more of like a personality to me than a musician, even though she's been making music for her whole life.
She sings. I don't know where she rates in terms of writing music and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I think that's the other thing that I think as I grow more as a musician, I really realize how underappreciated the actual artists are, which are the people writing the songs and writing the composition and actually writing the song. She performs it, but I don't really know much of her background in terms of the technical side of it.
Well, and that had been a thing since Motown, because a lot of those artists, well, not a lot, like more than 90% of them did not write their songs. And they were just like, hey, we saw these people perform at a jazz club. Like, oh, let's exploit them. And that's kind of the story of Motown. And that's pretty much how pop is, because you have these people that they're trying to make either money or set narratives, and then they use music essentially to push propaganda. And so you have these people that say like, no. Like, I know you have your vision and you want to do this, like, but that's not how this works. Like, we tell you what to do. So we're going to write the songs. And then you have the line between the artists and the product.
You know, AC, I gotta stop you in your tracks right here because you just touched on one of my favorite topics, and I have so much more respect for you now. Propaganda, man, like for sure. I'm like, does anybody see the propaganda in any of these things going on? Like even in social media and stuff, like that's one of my favorite topics to go off tangent on. But absolutely, I hear what you're saying.
Well, DJ, have we talked about Edward Bernays on this show? Like, we've talked about him with guests off air, but
yeah, no, we haven't. The Century of the Self. Have you seen that documentary? I think it's like a 3-part or 4-part. It's available on YouTube. Just look up The Century of the Self. It's mind blowing. But yeah, they had to change the name from propaganda to public relations, like, because it didn't sound good at the time.
Well,
and it was like Sigmund Freud's nephew that got him like famous.
The guy who learned how to attack the mind. Well, and the thing is, propaganda isn't necessarily a bad thing, because what propaganda is basically putting something out to make people see your point of view. But the problem is when you have bad people in charge and they put out their propaganda, they're trying to get you to...
Absolutely. There's always going to be nefarious things going on where the good things are happening. It's the yin and the yang, I guess. But, you know,
as
people are very easily persuaded.
Well, and it's easier to fool someone than convince someone that they've been fooled.
And let's get into the power of music and the brain waves and how it impacts your biological brain happening when you're listening to music, and then the fact that you're blasting messages through that. It's pretty powerful.
Well, let's do that. But before, let's talk about something that has been kind of a recurring theme as of late on the show is people not sitting down and just listening to an album, like start to finish.
Right?
So what they're doing, and it's not just that, but they have to have it on while they do things, like whether they're building a coffee table or they're exercising or they're buying some fertilizer and some ammonium nitrate, like whatever, the kids these days are doing. And they're constantly having this stuff put into their ears, and they're not even aware of all the stuff that their brain is absorbing.
Right.
So this power, it used to be like back in the record days. You sit in your room, and then you put this big old chunk of vinyl onto a thing that spins around, and then you sit down and you listen to it. Maybe you're doing something, maybe you're painting or something, but you're locked in one place, and then you're just listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Where now it's everywhere you go, so you don't even realize, just constantly it's getting pushed into your brain.
The power of commercials, even a 30-second blast, a 30-second jingle. How many times have you been walking around humming some weird?
All the time, and I hate it. See, I have Peacock, but I'm not going to pay the extra $5 to not have commercials, because to me the commercials are time when I'm just going to go get some water, go to the bathroom, because the only thing that I watch, I either watch Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-views, premium live events now as they're known, and then I'll occasionally hear the commercial jingles. Okay, I have seen Demolition Man. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have, yeah.
Do you remember there was the radio station of just commercial jingles?
I don't remember that part, but I do remember the movie.
Yeah. So there's one part I can't remember. He might say like, "Can we listen to music or can you turn on the radio?" But there's like a either Oscar Mayer or like Armour hot dogs. It's a hot dog commercial jingle, and then the two cops are singing it, and he's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, the most popular music today is just all these commercial jingles from a long time ago," and it is kind of funny because it's being satirical on how commercials would use classic songs to push whatever, but then it was just devolved into now people are just listening to 15-second commercial jingles. Their form of entertainment was commercials. And do you ever go on YouTube and just like watch random things?
You don't want to know what I watch, but the answer to that is yes.
I mean, random things, not the things you normally watch. Like a recommended thing or something on your feed, like, oh, I'll watch that. Yeah. So I'm
going to be watching Century of the South here soon.
That's not random. That's important. but there's like 4 hours of commercials from 1987.
Are you kidding me? That's so funny.
Yeah, there's like full things like top commercials 1993, top commercials 1979. It'll be like 4 hours of these things, and it's not like 12 views. They'll have like millions of views, hundreds of thousands.
People are just watching commercials.
Yeah.
But what are we selling there? We're selling nostalgia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean so that takes me to another tangent of music, which is the power to transport you into an exact place and moment. So real in your brain. Like you can see it, smell it, feel it, remember every detail of it just from that. And you'll be like, man, I haven't thought about that in years, but you'll hear a song and boom, you're in that moment. And I think that's maybe some of the association to why something like that would be so popular, because how good does it feel for a moment as an adult to be yanked right back into your childhood and for a minute just remember like what it felt like to be a child and hear Saturday morning cartoons and the jingles and that went along with that. It's right up there with classic rock, man.
Yeah, and that is a thing that I think about. I'm not going to tell this story, but there was something that I was doing, and it's not perverted. It's just a detail that no one needs to know. but at the time, I was listening to a lot of Stevie Nicks, not necessarily Fleetwood Mac, but just Stevie Nicks.
Okay.
And the song Landslide was like, it wasn't the first time I heard it, but it was like the first time I took it in. So I would just listen to it over and over. It was when I was a teenager. And and then there was something came up and it was the furthest thing from that song. And I said, this makes me think of the song Landslide, because that song was on while I was doing that. And this guy looked at me and he's like, what in the name of God? How? Like he was just mortified that it was something that was like very violent that made me think of it. But it was just something that I was listening to Landslide while it happened. And so it just forever when that thing comes up, like, oh yeah, I remember listening
Takes
to
it right
Landslide.
back there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? That is so tell me why. Why does that happen? Why can you be listening to music? How does that open up your brain to where then you can, because I don't know how weird you might think this is. I can't even believe but I've never said this out loud before. I have this weird traumatic past where I've lost so many people, but like I have no attachments to people. I have no attachment to places because I grew up military. I moved every 3 years. Every home, every friend was always like yanked away from me every 3 years. So I was always losing things. And I don't hold on to memories very well because I don't know, it's all just cluttered, But what I would do is if I wanted to remember somebody or I wanted to remember a place, I would assign it a song. And for some reason, doing that, when I miss that place or what, like I just go listen to that song and I'm just there. I don't know what made me do that, why that particular things started. But that's just, I don't know. My daughter seems to think I'm on a spectrum. And the more I say things that I do out loud, the more I think she might be right. But like when my sister died a few years ago, I chose a song for her and I was waiting for the news to come in because we had expected it was going to happen. And I just listened to this song over and over. And I was like, this is her song. But now when the song comes on, I'm like, no, I can't listen to that. Because I'm just not even emotionally prepared now to listen to that song if I'm not in a place where I can sit with those feelings and memories of her. But power of music, it's just incredible how we can do that. You remember those details from that moment of whatever weird detail you're leaving out. And I'm just quite curious now, what associates landslide with you? What is your association?
The thing is, it was a time in my life. You ever have that, you discover a song and then you just put it on repeat?
For days.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then, and generally what I do, if I get into that, okay, this is the song right now, and I will put it on repeat. And then I will pretty much kind of wash my hands of it. I've heard it enough. I don't need to hear it anymore. I know it inside and out, but just for that brief window in time, it was anything that I was doing then, it's now associated with that, where the other stuff I did was secondary because I don't like to just listen to music. I need to do other things. So it's the same thing with other stuff. I don't like to just play guitar. I want to have something on while I'm doing it because I feel like someone says you got to watch this documentary or something or another. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to just watch it. I feel like that's a waste of my time. Okay, well, now I can practice guitar while I'm doing it, or I can practice keyboards or bass or whatever. And the same thing with music. Okay, hey, you got to check out the song. Well, I'll be at the gym later, so I'll do it at the gym.
Right.
And it's almost like I do the other things as as my excuse to listen to the music. I want to listen to the music, but I feel like it's a waste of time to sit down and do one thing. I need to be more productive.
Maybe, but let me throw this.
I'm saying that just
there.
for me. I'm just saying for me personally.
But what I'm hearing is that you're probably neurodivergent, and that can translate into a little ADHD, hyperfocus stuff. But for me, what really is if you want my full attention, if I really want to focus on something, I have to be focused here to let that attention be here. I don't know how to explain that to people. If you're talking to me, usually I'm not staring at your face. I'm staring to the side and focusing on something else, but I am so intently listening to you, even though it looks like I'm completely ignoring every word you're saying. So if by doing the dishes and I'm listening to the song, I forget that I'm doing the dishes and I will be so hyper focused on the music. And so I think that's similar to, and I could be completely wrong because keep in mind, I'm not a licensed therapist.
Well,
when a child is concentrating really super hard and they stick their tongue out, there's a neurological reason why they do that. So by sticking their tongue out, they're shutting down their brain so that they can concentrate harder. And I think that's where keeping yourself occupied so you can listen to something might come into play. For me, this is my experience. But that's being neurodivergent. And I don't know many musicians who aren't neurodivergent. That's the beauty and the gift of being a musician. We can do multiple things at once.
Well, I mean, if you're playing guitar, you're doing multiple things at once. Left hand and right hand.
Yeah.
Doing that thinking thing again.
And same with, I try not to do that. Same with drumming. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of things at once.
A lot of coordination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ambidextrous. I use both of my hands for I think I'm left-handed when I write and I eat, but I'm right-handed when I do other things. And then there's other things I try to do and I don't know which hand to use and it freaks me out. I get so upset. Like painting, I don't know what hand to use.
What do you use
Iron-
to throw a ball or a grenade?
I'm right-handed.
Okay.
I'll launch that frag out, baby. Let's go.
I'm ambidextrous when I fight. I use both hands.
You're amphibious?
Yeah, I'm amphibious just by default, but not when I fight though. I'm not good in a fight in the water. I found that.
Oh, okay.
But when you go into your fighting stance, which side do you start with?
I do what's called the whirlwind. I just swing both my arms in a circle.
Do you do a tornado roundhouse kick? Go-ya!
This is a crab defense.
Upside down.
I'm MMA fighter. Look out.
I learned how to fight by watching Chuck Norris movies.
He's a good teacher, man.
He probably is a good actual teacher, but probably not by watching his movies.
He actually worked with Bruce Lee.
I know he did.
Yeah.
I want to say he was like the world martial arts champion in like 1979 or 8 or something. At some point in the 70s, he is a genuine martial artist, but the memes around him do not really do him any justice. But he is actually like a tough guy. Walker, Texas Ranger, I think kind of hurt his reputation as a genuine fighter.
Ask him if he cares.
Well, I'm sure he takes that show very seriously too.
If he wanted us a couple of wussies, we would have named them. What did he say? Oh, I just forgot my Ricky Bobby quote.
I've never seen that movie.
What?
I know people.
Please be 18. You don't get the reference, AC.
No,
Dr. Quinn. They say if we wanted a couple of wussies, we would have named them Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman.
Well, that's kind of.
But their names were Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of funny. I've never seen that movie. I probably won't ever watch it, but
That's sad.
Well, I don't have time. How do I have time to watch that? Do you know how many? Do you know how many episodes of Raw I need to get through? My goodness. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
I can't remember what were we talking about?
Wow, we went so many tangents there. I kind of lost track. Well, I opened up the conversation with just the neurology
landslide.
and the landslide. Yeah.
The landslide. Yeah. Okay.
Which you didn't answer, AC.
What was the question?
What trauma did you associate with that?
Oh no, it wasn't. It really wasn't traumatic. But
I was in the bathroom.
No. It was a piece of media that I associated with it. Yeah. But okay, so I do remember. No, again, it's nothing perverted. It was something violent. But
yeah.
But nothing as far as art has the power that music has on the brain. Like, and I'm sure there's people that will see like a painting, like, oh, like this boat reminds me of my aunt who passed away. Like, they might like she lived in the beach house, like something. You might have that occasionally, but it's the most. It has the most impactful effect on the psyche, because like movies, TV, painting. What's another form of art? I guess architecture.
Do you say books?
Yeah, writing. Yeah, writing. Yeah, writing.
Well, you had said too, like the movie Jaws. They showed it to an audience without any music, and people thought it was a comedy. So,
people were laughing at it. Well, okay. I have seen Back to the Future, and the Back to the Future 2 has one of my favorite lines in any movie. It's when like the shark. It says like Jaws 15 or something, and then the shark like chomps down on him, and then Marty says, "Shark still looks fake." It's because the shark in Jaws looks so stupid, and the reason they didn't show it was because it didn't work. So they had to bring the shark to life with the music, because you have the scene of the guy like when the shark like chomps him and he's like and it's like shaking him back and forth, but you have this terrible looking mechanical puppet with no music, and then you have this guy's like pretending to be eaten by this like paper mache like Sesame Street terrible looking thing. But then when you add the music to it, and then you get a feeling of dread. Who was the guy that we had on? Was it Zoltan when he said does the music make the feeling of dread, or is it the other part of it? You know what I'm talking about, DJ? Do you ever know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I never know it. I'm just here for looks,
Yeah,
that's so funny. But to your point, how the music created the suspense, created that emotion. Go back to classical music. I mean, immediately what I started thinking of was like the 1812 overture and how and I don't know if you guys listen to classical music. I think it went exactly like that, but it was simulating a battle. That's the one, yes. Okay. And at the end, if you remember, like cannons are going off and bells are going off, and you can actually listen to that piece and really feel and hear like the battle going on, the armies invading, and the French horns representing this, and the intensity and the buildup and the clash and the chaos and the celebration at the end. I mean, music has always been very, I think in the beginning, probably the only art to allow us to express ourselves. I don't know where acting stood in those days of classical music.
Actors were viewed as scum of the earth. Like, I'm not joking.
Yeah. They were like vagabonds. They traveled from town to town.
They're like, gypsies, essentially.
But music brought tribes together. Music was used in war. Music has been used for healing. I mean, music has been used for prayer, meditative purposes. And the thing that I love about music is you can pick any topic. You can talk about art. You can talk about history. You can talk about science. You can talk about math. And you can insert music into that category and have something to talk about. It is just so across the board one of the most versatile forms of art that we have. I don't know if you can put writing into math or perhaps you can, I don't know, coding.
How many people like actually read fiction and appreciate it as an art form? Like, how many people are reading T.S. Eliot or Lewis Carroll? Like, how many people are doing that? It's a real niche thing, because I'd say most people that can read do read, but it'll be like they'll read a random article that they saw on Facebook or something. But
most people just read the title and go, "Did you know what I hear?"
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to almost everybody listens to music.
Yeah. And we'll listen to the whole song, not just part of it.
Not just 45 seconds of a Chris Brown
just
song.
The chorus.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No. And to your point, even more so, I don't think many people read today as much as they used to, because the number of people that suggest audiobooks to me, and just right here, caveat, do we count audiobooks as reading?
No, it has a different effect on your brain. Reading
on your brain
makes you more intelligent.
And does an audiobook translate in your brain the way music would?
No.
Is that science? Can you back that up with science, sir?
I
can. Sources.
Yeah, I made it up. Fight me. Yeah. But if you listening, let's say the 1812 overture, that versus any audiobook. James and the Giant Peach. Let's just say these are your two things. Yeah. So I'm exercising and I'm listening to the 1812 overture. Versus I'm exercising and I'm listening to James and the Giant Peach. If I'm focusing on whatever exercise I'm doing, I'm probably not focusing on the words that are coming in. Versus music does work as, especially instrumentals like that. It affects your brain in a different way than words. Like, if you're talking to me and I'm doing something else, I'm probably not listening to you. Like, you can like run on a treadmill and talk to someone, but if I'm actually focusing on something, like I have 300 pounds over my chest, and if I drop it, it's probably going to hit my neck. Sorry, I don't have a lot of time to have a full conversation with you. Just like if these words about this guy who lives in a big peach are being put into my brain, I'm probably not focusing on that. Whereas I am absorbing any kind of music that's, I mean, I'd absorb lyrics. Like, let's say, like, if I'm Cannibal Corpse would be a good example. And I do think you can understand what a lot of death metal bands are saying. I think that's kind of that's a little more boomer tier thing. Like, you can't understand what they're saying. Oh, well, it's like, you heard 10 seconds of the song and you gave up. If you actually
Meatloaf, Mom, get the meatloaf.
Yeah, see, you understand.
No, that's fascinating to think about, really, because I'm imagining myself bench pressing right now to something
James
like,
Peach.
Metallica, or bench pressing to James and the Giant Peach, because I put on certain music with the intent to work out, because I know it's going to give me like drive. Like, I'm going to go with that music. I'm not even necessarily listening to the words. Sometimes the words make a difference, but it's the way it stirs up your brain and gets you energetically in place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why we use music in like places like church, right? That's why we start a church service with worship. We're worshiping, and what we're doing is we're elevating our spirit, we're elevating our mindset, we're elevating our energy levels to get into a place where we can receive. I mean, there's just such a spiritual aspect to what we're doing as well. So, and then, listening to an audiobook, I've tried that, and I get so distracted by the person's voice. I get annoyed and I can't do it. I was like, I'm going to listen to this audiobook for free. It's for free on YouTube. And I couldn't get into it because I hated the person's voice. So I was like, I will just read this book myself. And now I used to be an avid reader. I hardly read at all. That is due to a PTSD diagnosis and something I went through in 2021, that it really stole that ability for me to focus enough to read. But music pumps my brain, heals my brain. Playing guitar, what that does for my brain, which is, if we get into this, what we promote is the healing aspect of playing guitar. When you're learning an instrument, you are physically creating new neural connections. Your dendrites and everything is just reinvigorated, and parts of your brain are you're able to pull out of fight and flight and go into like your parasympathetic part of your brain, which is breathing and relaxing, and just the power of music. There's no other. I love art. I cannot speak for people who appreciate more art in that category more than music, or reading more than music. Like, I can't fathom how their brain might work differently. I do know everybody has a different brain, because I've literally stood next to people who have heard music. I can't stand still when I hear music, and I look over and they're just like, and I'm thinking, how are we standing in front of this live band right now, and you're just like not even affected at all? Have you met those people?
I have a funny story. There was this old guy that went to my gym, and he went and saw Leonard Skinner, not in their prime, like, when there's no original members. And he told me that he had to leave after the second song because the audience was just too rowdy. Everyone was standing up and like singing and clapping, and he just wanted to sit in his chair and listen to music. Like, you did that? You went to a rock concert and you didn't like audience engagement?
I mean, that's fascinating research right there to me. Is like, how is it you're not able to receive that energy, receive that feeling, or get that connection with the music, where the majority of other people are, like you said, rocking out. They're on their feet, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're fist pumping and doing whatever. But then there's just people that are like, I mean, and it's not even like, oh, I'm just too shy to express myself, because even those people will tap their foot or sway a little bit, or even like clap,
Or they wouldn't go to the concert because they didn't want to be in the crowd.
Right. But I don't know, man. Like, everybody operates different, but I'm glad the majority of us are over here on the music side, because I can't live without music. It's right there. I would choose music over food and water.
If we could live off music, literally, that's, who cares about oxygen? Yeah, and music does invoke that emotional element, and it can either be like at a Jaws situation where, it gives you fear and dread, or it can be uplifting, or if you're trying to work out, getting more fast-paced music, maybe not listening to opera is the best, while you're working out. But also, I think, learning an instrument not only is creative, but you feel like productive. And I feel like at the heart of being a human, we want to like produce things and do things. We don't just, at least I don't want to just like sit around. Like even like I could play the piano with my right hand and not the best with my left hand, but I could record some songs. And yeah, like if you listen to it, like, oh, that's terrible. But while I'm doing it, I feel pretty good. It's not just total nonsense. Like there are notes and chords that I'm able to use, but just learning, like there is an accomplishment. And yeah, it's hard. And some people might, like I've never played guitar and it would be really hard for me to learn, but
well, Radiohead said anyone can play guitar.
Okay.
Right. Well, to your point here, especially you, AC, when you talked about how you could listen to a song for like days, hours, days, or whatever.
Just Landslide.
Listen, you get a dopamine hit, man. And that's happened to me. I will hear a note. I will hear a chord progression, or it's the words timed at the right part of the song. Something about a song will grab me and I will hyper focus for days and spin out on this song until I absolutely cannot. I'll be like, this is the last time I'm going to listen to this song. Nope, playing it again. Here we go. Because I have such a raging dopamine hit going on from this song that I will feel high. I don't know what that feels like, because I've never actually tried to get high, but my experience is like I will feel high from this music because the dopamine is hitting so hard that you're getting a chemical release when you're doing music as well. So again, where do you get that in any other form? Do you get that when you look at an art piece? When you're looking at Starry Night and you're seeing the blues and the yells, unless you're colorblind and you're seeing
start headbanging.
But I think
look at this painting.
It evokes emotion for sure, and hopefully self-reflection or something like that. But in terms of like your brain, are you getting a chemical hit from that, or your is your brain regenerating when you look at art?
I don't think so.
Is there the same kind of power and impact that music provides? And is it because it's going through our ears and not our eyes? It's very interesting.
I'm going to say the answer is probably no. Now, modern art was invented, I think, during the Renaissance, maybe a little later. But it was a scam for rich people to launder their money. So I think a lot of people, now we can look at a few pieces and say like, wow, that's impressive. Like the Sistine Chapel is very impressive. Genesis is very impressive. There's a lot of art pieces. You go, wow, someone did that. But I think most people that pretend they're into art, keyword, they do that to look like they're a smart person, because the wealthy, the aristocrats, the refined, like, oh yes, this piece is wonderful. But really they would just say that to jack up prices so they could launder their money. And so you want to be like the refined. I'm not like you lower class like, oh yes, I like, there was an art piece. It was like a toilet mounted on the wall sideways. And then that was the art piece. Like this just
you
shows
just don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to get. It's stupid people pretend to like modern art. So when you say, I don't get it, so they can say, well, that's because you aren't intelligent like me. But really, I think those people are stupid. I think there is art pieces that is genuinely impressive. And I think there is a lot of art, we're talking about like painting, sculptures, whatever, that is there to kind of trick people into thinking that there's something more to it. Because there was an art professor, I can't remember what school, but he had a picture of something. And he's like, how does this Jackson Pollock painting make you feel? And some of the students were like, oh, I feel anxiety. Oh, I feel a deep emotional connections to it. And it was like all this stuff, and it was a trap. And he's like, okay, this is a picture of my smock.
My shower curtain.
No, it was just smock that just had paint splatters on it from when he would paint. And he's like, there's nothing to it. You're pretending. You felt nothing. And then it was just a bunch of college or art students pretending that nothing made them feel something. Where music, you subconsciously tap your foot. You don't say like, I should bang my head here. That's a thing to do. Like, people like let's say like more poppy stuff, they bob their head side to side, or like, Night at the Roxbury, the What Is Love, and you're doing that thing like that. Those are subconscious movements. So it does something to you. Like DJ said, you don't start headbanging when you see a painting. It does. You do get something out of impressive feats. Like someone lifting like 1,000 pounds. Like, it doesn't matter if like you're not into weightlifting or bodybuilding or whatever, but you see someone lift like the back of a car, you go, oh my gosh, that's really impressive. And I think a similar thing with like painting, because anyone can make a stick figure, and like I drew a circle and I colored it yellow. That's the sun. Like, anyone can do that. But when you see things that people like, how do someone, like, have you ever seen those pumpkins that people make where they'll make like a celebrity's face?
The jack-o'-lanterns?
Yeah, like around Halloween time, you see them spread around like social media or whatever.
I'm gonna make your face on a pumpkin.
Yeah, please do. It's
and smash it.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna start a band called Smashing Pumpkins.
There you go.
That's a good idea. Has anyone ever done that? Check to see if that name's taken. I don't think so.
How about Smashing Cantaloupes? It's already taken.
Is that? Oh, dang it! That's too bad. That's a good name. But yeah, as far as art goes, music does something to you. I guess you could say like movies and TV, like making you laugh or like actually making you cry. Like there is something to that, but a lot of that comes from the music. Like if you have a Sophie's Choice, and then you have Benny Hill playing the whole time, like you're probably not going to be crying. You're probably going to be mostly confused.
Music does matter, that is for sure, because there was this, I can't even tell the story completely the way it happened. There was a scene on TV happening, and it was one of those scenes where when you're sitting with your kids, it's kind of uncomfortable, but you're like, you're an adult, I'm an adult. We'll just pretend like we don't feel weird about this scene at all. But something was said on the TV that triggered our, I'm going to say it, Alexa. I don't want to say it too long because she'll be like, yes. And she started playing Redneck Woman as this scene was happening. And the tempo of the scene matched the tempo of the music, but the emotion was not the same. But it was just so funny, to your point, that like music matters. Backing up a little bit though to your statement that like people are stupid that do this and say that and whatever, you have to remember, I think, that art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, subjective.
And it is an intellectual brain. And I know that was like a blanket statement, but that really art exists all around us, whether it's intentional or not. That if you ask somebody to look at something and reflect on it, that's the whole point of art, right? And so like I can look at this tree. Nobody made this tree. God made the tree. But it's just out here in the front yard. And there's days that I sit and I stare at the tree and I'm like, wow, that's really beautiful. I can appreciate that tree.
Do you actually think the tree is beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
What if you didn't think it and you said it?
How do you please clarify that statement?
Like you didn't think the tree was beautiful, but you say that tree is beautiful.
But I just said it just because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Look, when you're in a classroom,
or you wanted someone to think that that.
Well, see, that's power of suggestion. That's power of suggestion.
That's what I'm saying. Well, and I think less intelligent
you're leading
people
the witness,
are more susceptible.
You're leading the witness, because when that teacher pointed to a student and said, "What does this say?" He has primed that person's thought and brain to respond in a certain way, as opposed to, "What do you think when you see this photo?" That's a different way to phrase the question, but to set them up already,
But also those people are more susceptible to that. So that means that there's less brain power because they were easily tricked.
Oh, you're a mastermind, huh?
I am. Well, yeah, I have a master's in psychology.
Oh, good for you. I only went as far as a bachelor's.
Okay. Well,
I'm done writing.
I got mine at Stanford.
Ooh.
Yeah. But
I
anyway,
got mine at Bellevue University. GI Bill. Hoorah. So
that's
anyways.
cool. But the point is that a smart person is less likely to fall into psychological traps because you're aware, like you recognize the trap that's being set. Because if someone showed you like nonsense, like, or let's say like a 4-year-old's drawings, because you have kids, I'm sure, mommy, look what I drew, and it's
My granddaughter is 5 years old today.
or
Shout
that
out
too.
to Morgan.
Happy birthday.
Well, that too. But it's not actually good, but it's good for them, and it makes you feel like, oh my gosh, look, they did this, and it's a nice thing. But
How
if you were
rude.
well, yeah, look,
I have my children's art framed in this house.
yeah, it's
You
framed
know
in
how
your
talented
house.
my kids are.
It's not at the Louvre. But I mean, I would never critique a child's art as though I would, a Botticelli or something, because it's good. It's like when your kid walks. Walking is an impressive feat, just in general. Like people walk every day. Why should I? No, it's just like, oh my gosh, look at the development that this child is. They're going to be an adult. Like, oh my gosh, look at this thing that I created. It's like that. So like, oh, you drew a horse. Like, well, it doesn't quite look like a horse, but in your mind, I know what you're trying to do. And it's that type of thing. But if you were to show those child drawings to like a college student and just say like, how does this was painted by the 60-year-old French impressionist painter, Pierre Omelette du Fromage.
Why is it got to be French, man?
Because it sounds more refined. Because it sounds, the French, that's fancy. Yeah, that's where the Louvre is. Ooh, well, I the brush strokes on here it's very abstract. Like if they were to say something like that, it's like, dude, that was drawn by a 4-year-old. Like you're not that smart. You're just trying to string words together. Because I think there's a difference between, of course, this makes you feel something versus you're pretending that it makes you feel something because you want people to think that you are more refined than you are. Because most modern art, it's ugly. And it really is about the destruction of beauty.
I'm not here to judge anybody's art. I'm just going to say
I'm an art
some of them folks are like, how is that art?
It's not, because
it's a red screen with a dot right in the middle.
Yeah,
and it's like infinity, and you're like, okay, next one. But I don't know. I went music. I didn't go art. I think.
Well, most people can listen to music and form an actual opinion, but our art comes down to, I think most of it is you like what you like. And I think there is a difference between paintings that are well painted and just nonsense.
I'm just down for the creativity part.
Well, there you go. I think there's some creativity in like the Sistine Chapel versus someone that just throws a bunch of like paint. Just get a bucket of paint.
I am never showing you my art ever. Yeah. DJ, hide all your art when he comes over.
DJ has the best, most premier stick figures. You will never see such symmetry.
I respect the stick figures.
No. He uses a level and a T-square for his stick figures. You wouldn't believe.
A ruler and everything.
The best stick figures like you wouldn't believe.
Well, there are the iconic guitar artwork like Eddie Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
So there is a level, and
George
even
Lynch?
George, and also actually building a guitar, because that's kind of more like
art.
Yeah, that artwork, or like if you were to build a bridge that works, it looks aesthetically pleasing, But there is that. There is a little artsy fartsy in music too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so great. There's so many people that I've met that it's like, I have this enormous guitar collection. By the way, I can't play guitar. I just really like the way they look. And, and then I have friends who are like, I build guitars, and they show me, their creative work. And And it floors me because I there's nothing in me that's like, I want to build a guitar.
I couldn't do it.
Period. Like that sounds like work. No, thank you.
All right. Okay, so first off, what's your favorite aesthetic guitar? What's your favorite design?
Do you see my wall?
Well, yeah, but I can't see everything on there, and I don't know what's behind there.
I don't believe in ranking things as favorites.
But you can have a favorite.
It's based on my mood. Like I have this. Where is it? This beautiful custom Gibson. I do love Gibson over. That's my favorite.
Well, I mean the shape, like the Les Paul or the SG or the Explorer. I mean, which one's your favorite? Just looking at it.
This
the
one.
Les Paul.
I love a Les. I was just at the Gibson garage a couple weeks ago, just surrounded by these things, and that evokes rock. Well, that a good flying V, but just childhood growing up, seeing guitars and stuff. That was always the Les Paul was always the one that I wanted. That was classic. There's still a couple of them that I would really like to go collect, but I don't have enough room in my house anymore for them. But electric wise, like slash, like his guitars, like growing up, seeing him play those guitars, they were just beautiful. But yeah, the acoustics, I love the Taylors. Like, I hope nobody hates me, but I'm a Taylor fan, and I have the T5 series up there on the wall. Which is my divorce reward. So he got the girlfriend, I got the guitar. DJ, don't get divorced.
Nope.
You're gonna lose your guitar, DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now what's the ugliest guitar?
Ugliest guitar.
Oh.
Why would it be ugly? I don't know.
The ugliest doesn't mean it's ugly.
Guitars aren't ugly. I can't answer that question.
Yeah, but
I'm not a fan.
One has to be at the bottom.
I'm not a fan of Ovations. I'll tell you that.
Is the sound or the shape? We're talking just the shape.
The shape.
Okay.
The shape.
I have two Ovations.
Yeah. Do they bubble out in the back? Do they have that weird back on it?
The one has that plastic back. It sounds really good though.
And then the headstock design, I'm not especially fond of. It doesn't speak to me, but great guitars. Play it, enjoy it. Like, I don't think it's ugly. It's just like, if you gave it to me, I'd be like, cool, I've got an Ovation to add to my collection. And maybe once in a while I'd pick it up and play it. But is it going out on stage with me? Probably not. Probably never.
I honestly, my favorite is the Warlock, but I think BC Rich have the dumbest looking headstocks. They're the most try-hardy, stupid looking things. I have multiple BC Riches. I have a Widow bass, and I have a Mockingbird, but just the headstock, the Mockingbird headstock is fine. It's like screams classic, like 80s rock, every like total package. It's great. But just the headstock on the Widow, it's so
okay. What are like classic guitars? Like
the Les Paul is a classic. Even as much as I don't like Stratocaster is an absolute classic. Flying V, yeah. I have a Strat, but it was my first guitar. The Flying V is a classic. Explorer is a classic. Like, even though you almost every band, you're gonna have just different things. Like Millie Petroza's the Mockingbird, Dave Mustaine's always been the V. James Hetfield's the Explorer, even though I don't think he does Gibson anymore, but he still has that same shape. Van Halen's was Strat, or Strat shaped. I don't know if he was in and out. Iron Maiden was Stratocasters. I want to say Slayer were Warlocks. I can't remember. I'm talking like the early days. I feel like Kerry King was playing the Warlock. But the point is, it's all over the place. But to me, there's just like a few very iconic things. See, I'm not a Les Paul fan just because I think they're just uncomfortable because they're so heavy, but they do sound
They
good.
are so heavy.
It's like it's like playing a coffee table with strings. But they don't sound bad at all because there's a lot of wood, so there's a lot of sustain. But I will never say like, oh, that's a bad guitar. That's a stupid guitar. No. It's like very much like that is a hard rock guitar. Like Danzig wrote all his songs on a Les Paul.
But they play like butter, man.
They do. But but after an hour, like my shoulders hurt, and
they invented new straps for that.
AC's got a hunchback.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, I live in the bell tower.
No, I wish I could play that as worthy as this is. I am not quite skilled to be out there rocking on that, but I'm learning. I'm learning some cool stuff. I learned later in life. At 16, I learned to play from Drunk Marines. My little
the ultimate
guitar
teacher.
Yeah, for real. But I never had one lesson, and it shows because only just now am I learning about like cage systems and how the fretboard is broken down and how to mildly noodle out some sort of a lead, But respectfully, like the playlist of lead guitar players and guitar sounds and stuff like Pink Floyd, Prince, little Ted Nugent, Zakk Wylde, Eddie, Slash, go down the list, all of them. I just envy. I have so much envy. I'm like, how Nancy Wilson? I don't want to leave out the women. Like, oh my gosh,
Lita Ford.
Yes, and she's still rocking. Joan Jett, they're all out there still rocking, and I'm like, it's not too late for me to learn how to rock out. I want to but when people look at me, they think AC. They ask me to sing AC.
Is it picture at karaoke night with someone else?
It's Landslide. So don't come to my gigs because you're gonna be triggered.
Why are you singing Landslide?
I do Landslide with.
I don't know if I'll be.
daughter.
I don't know if I'll be triggered by it. I'll be like, "Hey, this reminds me of that thing."
You want me to bring the room down real quick? No, but I get asked to do like a lot of Stevie Nicks and stuff like that, classic rock, because I'm playing with people a couple years older than me. But you go with the crowd pleasers, so you play what the crowd asks for, and it's the same stuff over and over and over again. Country Roads, Folsom Prison, Sweet Caroline.
Ba ba ba.
Yeah, it's crowd pleaser every time. But I love it. I love music, but I've always had this draw towards guitar. And so my children know that the only thing they'll be left with is guitars because I will spend all my money on my collection till I die. And then they can do with that what they want.
Was it guitar acquisition syndrome or something?
Dude, and again, I think this is the dopamine connection, because what dopamine does for you is it makes you want to keep going back for something.
Yeah.
So for example, when you eat, you'll get a dopamine hit, and that's why you want to keep eating. Well, in 21, I got COVID, lost taste and smell. I don't get that dopamine hit anymore. So I forget to eat. I don't want to eat. I take a couple bites. I lose interest in eating unless I'm in a social atmosphere. So then if we're out to lunch and we're eating, I'm so connected and excited about the social interaction going on that I'm getting my dopamine hit from there. And I will eat my entire plate of food and not even think about it. But I think that it's like, that's my drug addiction is dopamine. And so when I was in Nashville, I stayed right across the street from the Gibson garage, and I went in and my eye spotted one of their Les Pauls. Beautiful seafoam green guitar. And the whole time I was in Nashville, I was like, I don't need another guitar. I don't have room for another guitar. How can I get the guitar home? Where would I put it? I'm just like, I was like, thinking about it the entire time, like I was on a diet craving McDonald's or something, like I was like, I really want this guitar. And like, I still have not let go of like, I won't be satisfied till I get that guitar. So there is some sort of syndrome there that musicians get, guitar players get. I mean, I don't know many guitar players who are like, I just have one guitar. You have to. Everyone has, you make this excuse. They all sound different. It's not an excuse. They kind of do. They do, right?
No, they
but
absolutely do.
There's always a reason for one more.
I have 4 electric guitars, and when I recorded I got other instruments. I got 4 electric guitars, and when I was recording my album, I wanted to play the songs with multiple different guitars to create a different sound, but none of the guitars sounded as good as my Explorer. So I just said, well, this is a stupid way to do this, to just do it, just to have different sounds. The Explorer sounds so good because as amateurish as my album sounds, I do think the guitar tone is good. And I did not have that with my other guitars. And I just think, okay, there's no reason to play it with this or this or this or this. So I did the whole thing just with the Explorer. And I do play the other guitars. A few of them were done, a few leads were done with other guitars, but I think it's pretty obvious which ones were done without the Explorer. But for the most part, yes, they do all sound different. If they all sounded the same, then, people wouldn't have preferences.
Right. So here's why I waited so long to get into the electric guitar. It's not just the guitar, because now you got to buy amps. Oh, and now you got to buy expression pedals, and
you got to get different pickups.
You got to get different pickups, right?
This cable.
God, the hardware that goes.
Gold cable. It's a better conductor.
Everything went out of control. Everything was managed space-wise in my home with my guitars until I opened up the door to electric. And now, like, you can see what I see right now. It's chaos because of all the amps and all the pedals and all the different hardware that goes with playing electric guitar. And as you were talking, I was thinking like, okay, well now, how much of the guitar matters over the amp, and then also the software opportunities now to just plug into your computer and you can download like any kind of distortion amp, whatever sound you want to get. How much does a guitar matter then compared to like how you can manipulate it in production?
I think at that point, honestly, none, because I played on one record. My name was removed from it because I wanted no association with these clowns. But they re-recorded a lot of my parts, but I did listen to it when it came out, and I was like, well, I'll be darned. That is my playing, and they didn't even credit me. All right. I'm not upset about that, but it's just funny that they did that because I thought they were going to re-record everything. But they used a program.
Yeah, I'm listening.
They used the
GarageBand.
No. It was the other thing on Apple. Is it Logic?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like Logic X. And they had all the billion different amps, and you could like change the position of the mic, and you could change the tone, and that was how they did everything. It was all just plugged directly into that, and the tone was made. And I'd never seen anything like that, because even my album was recorded completely analog. That's why it sounds so bad. And this sounded really good considering this person had no experience engineering at all, but the amp plugins did all of the work, and it sounded perfect. Like the album itself, there was still a little, flaws because they're still amateurishly made. But if that album came out in 1988, it would be like the best sounding album of the decade. Again, it doesn't sound like everything is overproduced now. Yes, that we have talked about that ad nauseum on this show, where like even modern metal, and I don't mean like, you know, new Metallica album, but I mean like, I guess August Burns Red, like stuff like that. That stuff is
out of this.
That is all so overproduced, and it's all done with plugins, and it's all preamped. That's how all of that stuff is now, and it sounds like it was made on a computer. And I don't mean like they recorded it on a computer. I mean like Steve Vai would use so many effects that it sounded like he was playing into a computer. And this was like, you know, early 2000s, but that was just the way he did it because he used all these effects. Steve Vai is a genuine guitar virtuoso. He is, you can't really rank like best guitar players of all time, but Steve Vai is without a doubt one of the best of all time. But that was kind of his gimmick, apart from how he played, is he made that very sterile sound with all the different effects that he did as an enhancement, not to cover up any limitations. Where all these modern bands, I don't think a lot of them are talented. I don't think a lot of them are creative, but all of their records are perfect. They sound so perfect to the point where there's no soul.
Mm-hmm.
And now anyone can record.
There's no expression. I think the human expression.
Well, I think that comes from the soul.
You know, right, exactly. Like you're removing that to make it so perfect that it's just candy coated and sent out there for the world to hear. So this is one of the things that I live by. I don't consider myself a master of anything. You knew that? Oh, wow. I'll just put this down. But I will not work on anything to perfection, because when I work with the veterans in our Guitars for Vets program, after they've gone through the 2-week course, we try to keep them going through the course so that they'll continue to learn and grow their skill. They often get quite discouraged, and what I hear is, well, I'm not as good as you. I'm like, well, no, I've literally been playing for decades. Like, you're on chapter 1. Like, you're not even going to be close to that. But they get embarrassed or ashamed because it's not perfect. They're not sounding as clean as they want to. And so I will purposely post my imperfections. You know, I post videos of me singing off key, videos of me making wrong notes or whatever, because I want the emphasis to be, this is about you and the music. This is about you and telling your story or giving your expression and how you're interpreting the music. But you know, I just started songwriting and opening the door to that process last October. So I uploaded 3 songs on Spotify, and only one of them was produced, recorded with a friend in his studio. And I threw the other ones up myself because I got access to like Kid Distro and all of that. Got enough knowledge to just do it myself. And it's not perfect. Sometimes I just want to take it down. But the gist of it was just the opportunity to share with people that like there's still this human element to music that I don't want to lose, to where you go listen to the old vinyls and you hear the scruff, you hear the scratch, you hear the grit. It's not perfect. But that's what I love about it. Often your favorite songs will have like that guy singing off key, but it wasn't that he was singing off key. It was he was expressing it, and you felt that in your soul. You felt the expression. You know, you just stuck it to the man. Good for you. But that's what I want back in music, and that's why I actually follow a lot of unknown bands. I follow a lot of bands growing on like social media. They'll put their music out there because I don't even know. Are bands trying to get discovered anymore? I don't even know how that operates.
They are, but they can't.
They send us their songs, and that's kind of like what we like to do. We like to play, you know, quote unquote unknown artists. Give them a little extra exposure. You know, maybe no one will hear it, but you know what? We'll still play it.
Yeah, one of my friends has a metal band here called Evandale, and they opened for Poison over in the big city of Council Bluffs at Sturt Cove. And I mean, when I hear their music, I'm like, this is the music I grew up with. Like, this is it. Like, he was up there, sweat was slinging, his long hair was flying everywhere, and and what was even better was like the crowd's response to that energy. And I was like, man, like, this music is still alive. Everybody had their phones out and they were screaming and fist pumping and stuff. And I'm like, I love that. I love that, because this band grew together, a small town band, and I was like, that's the way a lot of these great bands started. Bon Jovi and all of these guys like Aerosmith, they started in their garage and they grew up together and they became this. And I hate that we've kind of lost that opportunity for bands like that, because now it's just, are you marketable from, overproduction mindset.
How many Spotify plays do you have? How many followers do you have on Instagram?
How can we use you to sell pills to children?
Yeah, and then worse yet, like, you don't even get paid for your music because most of the music's going to somebody else. So even if you are getting all of that play on Spotify, you're still not financially getting a fair share of it to make a living wage for some people. But
DJ and I recently produced a record, and we wrote the songs and we arranged them, and then we just had people we know record the songs, and so we tried to put it on Spotify, and just like, oh, just upload to Spotify, right? No, that's not how it works. So you have to go through an approved distribution service or a record label. And it looks like to be on Spotify, you essentially have to sign the digital rights over to someone else. So, yeah, like, just looking at that, I'm like, oh, okay. I want to say it was David Lee Roth. I think he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, but he was talking about how at a certain point they just didn't even bother putting their stuff on Spotify because it just wasn't worth it for them. Because like they make such little money, and most of these artists that, like, let's say, like, your Cardi B's or whatever, then they have like 29 billion plays per second or something stupid, and they don't care about the money because they get this is more money than a brain dead prostitute should ever make in their entire life. And she is getting all of this. So even getting $1 million a year for her would probably be like, wow, this is great, versus how many plays these people actually get. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they look at the check and like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money, versus you had someone like when Jason Bittner from Overkill was on, and he's like, look how many plays we have. Like, we don't even get, it's like fractions of a penny on the dollar. Like, we get nothing, and then they get all this money from it. So people that can do the basic math, unlike Cardi B, they look at the numbers and they're like, okay, something is not up here. And then these people at the top, they're just getting big royalty checks and they're not even thinking about it. So,
and it's sad because people aren't running out to like buy the new vinyl, buy the new cassette, buy the new CD. They're not buying things like that anymore. So the only way they're essentially making money is to tour and rank up, ticket prices and merch prices and all of that. How do you even make a living as a band anymore?
Well, there was this one band, I can't remember their name, something Doll, I don't know, like some guy that was on tried to get us to get them on, but they're
Sisters Doll,
yeah. And I was just looking at their merch store, and their vinyl record, it was $75.
Wow.
Like, how do you justify that?
And who's able to pay that in this economy? I'm just saying.
I agree. Because anyone listening to that, because metal is really, it pretty much is like working class music. Mm-hmm. So like, if you like, rich people listen to U2. Like, working class people listen to Megadeth.
Wait, let me just process that. Rich people listen to U2. Do you think that's what's happening?
Yeah. Well, who are you going to pay $1,300 for nosebleed tickets?
Well, I mean, look at the money people are spending on Taylor Swift tickets.
That too. That is shocking. Like people are taking out bank loans so their 12-year-old
Yeah.
can go see Taylor Swift for 2 hours.
It shocks me. It shocks me because I'm like, there's a cap for me, you know. Like, there's a cap for me.
I saw Judas Priest and I had mid-row seats. This was 2005. It was $35 for like that was the price of the ticket.
Right.
Now, granted, there was a $35 service charge, but still, to see Judas Priest from the halfway point for $70 to me that seemed like a steal. I saw Motorhead at the House of Blues for $25, and I was in the front, and that was like 2006. I can't remember how much I paid to see Megadeth on the Blackmail the Universe tour. I don't know if I've ever paid more than $100 to see a band, and I've seen Iron Maiden, Megadeth, Venom, Judas Priest, Motorhead, Celtic Frost.
Now it depends where you want to sit to see that band too. And what's frustrating is to pay that money out, and the whole time you're there, all you see is this other people's phones, like
that, which is ideally the greatest part of the show. The back of other people's, well, I guess the front of their phones.
Yeah, you get to see them record what they're recording.
Yeah, that's.
But that I love technology and I hate it. But to me, that if I'm going to put out all of that money, I don't want that in the way. I want to be in the present. I want to see the band perform, and what was the last big band I went and saw?
Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
How did you know?
They're hot this year.
Got a crystal ball in front.
Does that band still exist?
Jeez, off the top of my head. Well, actually, if you want to know the truth, it was New Kids on the Block in San Diego.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with going to that concert.
But just in general, like I had bought, 2 years ago, I bit the bullet. I bought expensive tickets to go see Aerosmith. I was like, I've never seen them. I gotta see them. And then the tour got canceled because he fractured his larynx. I was like, I've heard him sing, Steve Tyler, he fractured his larynx. And then we're like, we don't know when he's going to be better. So eventually I just cashed out my tickets and went on a cruise because that's how much those tickets were.
Holy
and I only bought two tickets.
Holy moly.
Yeah, but it paid for my cruise.
Well, yeah. Either way, it's your how long was the cruise?
7 days.
So you either want a 1 week vacation or 3 hours with Aerosmith.
With Aerosmith.
Yeah. The cost of a vacation. Fair? No, it doesn't. Well, and the thing is, the reason I name dropped those bands is no one's ever going to see Celtic Frost again, as far as I know.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to see Venom again. Venom is two different bands. It's basically Kronos, and then the other members of Venom are Venom Inc. King Diamond, probably going to see again. Megadeth is really on their last leg. Like Dave is not looking good. I mean, the guy just recovered from cancer. That takes a toll on you. And I never paid more than $100. And I remember when King Diamond, the second time I was going to see them, it was at the Galaxy, now the Observatory. And the tickets, I think, were like $30. And then King Diamond hurt his back doing something or another, and tour got canceled. And then when he came back, it was several years later. It was at, I think, the Wiltern. It was at one of those venues, and the tickets were so expensive. And the Galaxy, now the Observatory, it was floor, like you didn't have your seats. Where this time it was like seating. So if I wanted to be close, it was really expensive. And I'm like, what? I saw King Diamond at the House of Blues. Now, just because the guy hurts his back because he's old, like I have to pay 10 times the price. This is crap. And then that's kind of, I think, just the natural state now is like, you never know, this might be the last time. Well, now it's $200, and then you just got to keep doing that, and a lot of them are still doing well.
I got invited. I didn't have to pay for the ticket, so I can't take credit for this one, but I got to see the Eagles not too long ago, and it was great to see them. They're all up there, you know, in age, but then after the fact, I had read that like a lot of their music was recorded, and I was like, is that true?
That's a common thing now. Like Motley Crue, we've talked about them.
Come on.
Paul Stanley on the last Kiss tour, like he can't sing anymore because he blew out his voice. But yeah, his was pre-recorded. Now one of our early guests, like now Blackie Lawless does the tape over, you know, Animal, but he believes that there's more tape to it. Apparently, the Misfits just played at some festival around here, and they were taped. This seems to be a thing, and obviously it's not taped. Yeah, I know it's not recorded on tape. Yeah, it's like probably an MP3 or WAV. Yeah. I know.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, but apparently this is like a new common thing, and the thing is, let's say you go to see, I don't know, pick any band, and they're pre-recorded, and you pay like $30, but it's cool to see them or whatever. But you're paying $1,000 to see Motley Crue. We had someone on that was trying to justify that, like, well, you're in the room with them, isn't that cool? No, that's a lie. It's a lie. They're lying. You're not seeing them live. You're seeing them stand there. Imagine you go to see.
They might as well pull out some chairs and do like a question and answer session after.
That would be better. But yeah, it would be. It would be like them coming on stage, pulling out chairs, and then putting like a Spotify playlist and just standing there, and while you're expected to just
go
have fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than that. Like it would be, you know, neat to see them there. Like do a Q&A while they play their own stuff, like that'd be something, but not for $1,000, especially in a stadium. Like that's a joke. It's a sick joke. But yeah, apparently this is a new thing, and I think I believe all the rappers are doing it. And when we were talking earlier about, like,
and I bet you anything is to cut costs probably more than anything.
No, I think those people are I think those people are talentless hacks, and they just are more concerned with doing drugs and killing people. But I think a lot of the older rock stars, they're just older, and it's just hard to do that. It's hard to put on a good live show. I mean,
every night.
Yeah,
I just watched Bon Jovi's documentary. I don't know what platform that was on, but he was talking about how he was disappointed because he couldn't go on tour because he's just not able to tour anymore. And I'm just thinking, why are we still touring? Like what? You know, we're not young, spry people anymore. But it does seem like a lot of these old bands are trying to tour again. And again, I just wonder, does this come back to like they're not getting paid for their music?
I think it's free money. I think it's just free money. Like if Motley Crue is charging like $1,000 for a ticket, and all they're doing is pretending to play their instruments.
I have not gone to any of the, like Def Leppard, Motley Crue. I don't even know who else is. I've seen a lot of those like cluster
Poison.
concerts.
I think that's what it was. It was Motley Crue, Joan Jett, Def Leppard, and Poison. I think that was the quote unquote stadium tour. So they were playing stadiums, and how many people are in? How many seats in the average baseball stadium, DJ?
I mean, upwards of like 40,000.
Okay, and then there's probably a section behind them that are closed off, so maybe 30 to 25,000 around there, and then $1,000, you know, per person, plus merch and whatever. Like that's a lot of money. So that's like $10 million to pretend to play an instrument. Like for $10 million in a year, would you play air guitar for 90 minutes?
With your friends?
Yeah, with your friends. Yeah, I think it's just easy. It's like Ric Flair used to say, he would, if he got a check for $10,000, he would spend $20,000. So like a lot of these guys, like it's probably just, they're not like, oh, I just want to raise my grandkids and, watch them finger paint. They're probably still trying to live like they're
they're finger
30.
painting for the Louvre.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, the art is terrible. 0 out of 10.
Art.
Awful. I think that's what it is, because a lot of these guys, there's no way they're hurting for money, and I know a lot of those guys did mismanage their money, and a lot of them did go broke. But there is a new renaissance for legacy bands. It's not just metal, but it's mostly like hard rock.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say AC/DC, but a lot of those guys are not really around. But that type of music is popular among young people. And I always bring it up. There's no new grunge acts, but there's still people playing metal because metal is timeless. There's not as much rock and roll, like as far as like 70s rock. There's not a lot of people just playing like 70s stoner rock. No, young.
Let's go back to propaganda, though. Is it because they're putting that music in all the kid movies, so the parents will take their kids to the movies, and it can be entertaining for the parents and the kids?
Do you like that movie? There was the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I think that kind of started a lot of that, like just the soundtrack.
I own the soundtrack.
I think a lot of that started that because there was a trend for a while where a lot of movies started doing that. One of the Minions movies did that.
Yes,
I know they tried to do that with. I did watch this Suicide Squad. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this is why I don't watch movies anymore. Yeah, but that became kind of a trend. It was just all these like 70s pop songs because people like those songs and they are timeless. I think that was. The guy who made that movie, The Guardians of the Galaxy, that was probably like a conscious decision. That was probably not like the committee saying like, you should do this and this and this. That was probably him saying like, this would be a good gimmick because emotion reasons and blah, blah, blah. And then all the other things that followed it were just trying to shamelessly rip that off.
Let me tell you that. Let me interject this thought. I'm just thinking, okay, so once again, we're tapping into nostalgia. So we're marketing off of nostalgia. So we build a soundtrack that's going to take people back, and we tap into their abandonment issues. Oh no, his mom, his dad. Oh,
sure.
Like Hooked, Generation X, we're in. Well, how much money do you want?
Yeah, well, and
psychology again.
Yeah, and it does. There is an appeal on that front, but the young people, they never heard this before, and it's like, wow, this is a song that's not about like drugs and butts. Like, oh my gosh, what a novel concept. And
I don't know what kind of music you were listening to, but
well,
have you heard girls? Have you?
Well, I mean, what's a different? It's a different type of, but yes. But that's just one song. Biased. That's one song. Okay. Yes, Dr. Feelgood and Girls fit both of those categories. But hey, name another band. Let's play the drugs and butts game.
Drugs and butts.
Find it, DJ. Name a band.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Is that about that?
Is that Great White?
That's Great White.
I actually just saw them. I did.
Did you?
I did. Man. It was Great White. Oh yeah, it was Great White, Quiet Riot, Slaughter, and Vixen playing at the Honda Center in Anaheim. So,
oh my God, Vixen, take me back!
And it was the first night that they had a new Vixen singer. That was like her debut. They were actually like,
the original singer died of, I think, breast cancer.
Oh, okay. Oh,
she died of some kind of cancer, but yeah, she died relatively young. I want to say
I was listening to them when I got my first electric, so I was like, "Yeah, Vixen,"
And they had two good albums, and then like one of the worst albums of the '90s.
Hey, we were living that charmed life, but
well, it's only semi-charmed.
Yeah, semi-charmed life for sure. No, but I mean, rock and roll was all about sex and drugs.
But
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
But it was more subtle.
You're like, it
in
was
the
way
songs.
classier.
Well, a lot of those bands are definitely. I don't know if classier is the right.
Let me give you. Let me.
But
let me
it was
give you
more. But
an
it was more.
example.
That
of
was
my
the
song.
background, though. As far as
Look,
we all knew they were doing it, but
I remember a day where I had my back in the day my Walkman and I had my little headset on.
Trademark by Sony.
And my mom walks in the from trademark Sony, right? And I'm singing. She Goes Down, Motley Crue. Remember that album? And my mother spins me around, rips the headphones off. She goes, "Do you know what you're singing about?" And I was like, "No, I just like the music."
Loving and Elevate.
Because what an awkward conversation that would be, you know? Like, yeah. So I mean,
But
okay,
again,
so
that's
it's a
Motley
bit more
Crue,
subtle.
though.
It's interpretive. Yeah.
But again, like a lot of those bands, yes, they were known for partying and all that stuff, but a lot of the lyrics were more subtle. Like especially like She Goes Down no rapper would be that clever. Like now, like what was that song we were talking about recently where ass was said like 97 times? I can't. I'm not. I mean, I may not even be
as opposed to She's My Cherry Pie. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And there's some bad metaphors in that song. But is Bobby Brown alive? I know she had a real rough patch. I want to say she died recently. I know Janie Lane died, but I want to say Bobby Brown died recently, and I don't mean the guy married to Whitney Houston because he's still alive. But yes, that was more. It was more subtext, and it was more just that was the lifestyle was sex, drugs, rock and roll. But it wasn't like the lyrical content. Where now, okay, a good example is the debut album by Straight Outta Compton by NWA. They had what? Did we do this one? We read the lyrics for "Express Yourself." Did we?
I think we did actually.
I think we did. So it's like the whole album is like nonstop violence. It really is just pretty much just saying like, "Oh, we never did anything wrong. Here's our songs about all the violence we do." It's the stupidest thing. You have to be so stupid to think that these guys are not threatening and don't deserve any kind of heat they get from police. But there's like one song, it's called Express Yourself. And it really is, why is it on the album? And it's about what you think it would be about. Express yourself. And it's about, just expressing yourself. And it's a nice song. It sounds like, what is this, like Grandmaster Flash or De La Soul?
I'm just saying, yeah, there's probably like a lot of songs on that album that are going to hit the road trip playlist when you're in the car with your family.
Well, it depends on.
But I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I get down with that gangster rap. Sometimes it's good stuff.
I don't. I'd push a button and remove it all from the world because it definitely was responsible for countless unsolved murders. That album is not rebellious. It's the equivalent of putting a gun in someone's face and saying like, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong here. You made me do this. That is what that album is. And it was all media propaganda. Oh, these guys, look, you don't know how hard it is for them. You don't know how hard it is for violent gang members. You don't know how hard it is for them to not get arrested when they're breaking and entering. Come on, give them some sympathy. And that's what replaced metal. So what
happened when Kiss came on board? Man, growing up, Kiss was like the devil.
Sure.
Listen to the kids of Satan,
Sure, of course. No one's seen anything like interpretive. That. But here's the thing: was Gene Simmons pulling guns on people? He has his own problems, but was he?
No,
pulling
but Ozzy
guns
was
on
biting bats' heads off. And,
what did those bats ever do for me, huh? Giving me rabies.
But to your point, saying that it was received as they are spreading satanic messages to our children, and we don't want our children listening to this. When in truth, you're responsible for what you're listening to, and nobody's forcing you to listen to this music.
Yeah, but the media glorified
it's free speech, and the
media 100% was
shock factor.
No, I disagree. I don't think it's shock factor. I think for Kiss and Ozzy, sure, but those bands are the gateway drug that led to NWA, like straight up glorifying violence. And it'd be one thing, like let's Megadeth, Good Morning Black Friday, one of the most violent songs ever written. Dave Mustaine wasn't going out breaking and entering. He wasn't selling drugs. He wasn't killing people, and he wasn't saying, I'm doing all this, and it's because of the lifestyle I live of violence and crime. And the media 100% glorified violent gangsters, sold it to a generation, and they still tried to play it off like, hey man, they're just expressing themselves. No, they're not. Those guys were practicing what they preached. And you know what? The worst thing that happens with when having sex with someone is STDs aside, is a baby comes out. And you know what? If a baby wasn't made, then I wouldn't be here. So I don't think that's too big of a deal. But playing with guns and selling drugs, the loss of innocent life, I would argue, is a pretty bad thing. And NWA was a total gimmick. Their producer knew what he was doing. Media mogul, I can't remember his name, but he saw this not like, yeah, let's make some money. He said, no. We are going to warp a generation. This was a total, like, this is the next generation of Laurel Canyon. Like, right. Oh yeah.
And I am familiar with what you're talking about right now, but also let me share some context for you that I think about when I reflect on all of this. I think, if you think way back a few centuries, if you can remember then, our form of entertainment was gladiators just gutting each other out in the arena.
Well, we still have those.
You know what I mean?
UFC now.
We have always very curiously been attracted to gore and violence and murder and death. My favorite show is Game of Thrones. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why. I'm not proud to say that, but
I wouldn't be proud to say that.
About the violence is, that in our psyche, we're kind of drawn to that. And we've always been tribal in nature, secluded, and this is our form of art and this is our form of expression, and in some places it's more violent than others. I get what you're saying in terms of how they use this genre to warp minds into propaganda. Again, we're back into propaganda and stuff, to suppress a culture there. But overall, I don't know. I think we're still responsible for what we're listening to.
But the media also has a big hand in it, and this is basically what I'm saying is the media treated them as rebels fighting the power when they were 100% backed by the system, and they convinced young people that, hey, it is cool now to be a violent criminal. And it never went away. That rap has not changed. We have done so many episodes on the life and crimes of various rappers. It's
so what would you change? What would you change?
So we did an early episode, and I stand by this. Tipper Gore was right. There needed to be heavy censorship.
So how does that impact heavy metal? Where does the line between this is okay to suggest? I'm okay
with. Your kid does not need to be hearing I F like a beast. I'm okay with that because that was the window that they used to get gangster rap into the mainstream. Because had the Washington Wives won that war, Straight Outta Compton would not have had a mass release with a huge MTV push. And that would have led to, you know what? Tupac and Biggie would probably still be alive. Not that I have any real sympathy for either of them. We've done a little episode on them as well. But the amount of lives that would have been saved because these people went out there and said, musicians can do whatever they want. Okay, that's fine. If you want to write a song that's like, I kill babies and it's cool, okay, you can write that song and you want to record it. Okay. Well, how about a store can't carry it? How about Spotify can't list it? Or how about now you have Spotify have like an age verification or something. Yeah. Or I'm fine with the parental advisory being like an R rating. If you're under 17, you can't buy the record. I'm fine with censorship as for like, you don't need to have children doing that. Cause I remember seeing that parental advisory sticker. Ooh, that means that's going to be cool.
And
That means it's going to sell even more.
Well, it did sell more, but the thing is, I would
Mhm.
see that sticker on anything and I would just try to buy it. Like the first thing I saw at a record store when I was a kid, and I mean like when I was like under 10, and I would buy a tape I didn't know what it was, but I just knew it had, they didn't card you. They didn't stop you like, oh, sorry, you're a kid. Because it's parental advisory. So pretty much
But
once
you know
you
what?
got it, your parents could take it from you.
Yeah, but what if your parents are listening to that music or your older siblings listening to that music? You're
Well,
still being exposed to it.
But what if your parents are Frank Zappa and they're watching pornography with you? Like there's a lot of irresponsible parents that do things that you shouldn't. But there needs to be rules. I'm a big fan of rules, and kids don't need to grow up hearing "shoot guy cool." Oh, look, now we have a generation where 52% of rappers are killed before they're 25.
Yeah.
And we can't say, oh, I don't want to take the libertarian response of like, hey, people can do what they do. But going back to the suggestion that was brought up earlier, if I suggest that something's cool to someone young, then they're going to grow up while they're developing mentally, and then they're just going to have that ingrained into their brain that that's a thing. And that's what the media has done, especially the music
smoking,
media.
drinking,
Well,
all of that.
Women smoke
But see,
cigarettes.
that's where capitalism comes into play, because it's all about making that money. And if people know how to, manipulate us to get us to want to spend money.
That's the century of the self right there.
Yep. Women smoke cigarettes.
So we're not looking out for people's best interests. We're looking out for how can we put money in people's pockets.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's not about making money. I think it's about how can we control people mentally. I mean,
that's that too.
I mean, it's all in the century south. Women smoke cigarettes solely because Edward Bernays. And you could say like, well, that does make a lot of money, but you know what? If you make people sick and you make them dependent on drugs, then yeah, you can make a lot of money doing that, but you can also control them. Like, well, we got the drugs, and then you need to do this and this and that and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people with their hands on the levers of power care more about controlling the people than making money off them. Because if I have total control over you, I won't need to make money off of you, because then you'll just do whatever I want you to. And if I need money, well, you're also an ATM. I think people care more about that. And I think with music, people that make music are harder to control. And playing music does make you smarter. And all these rappers are stupid because they don't play instruments. They grew up hearing shoot person with gun because they stepped on your Jordans. And then now that's the lifestyle that they live, but they've never been smart enough to just say, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like maybe I should be more productive. Maybe if I don't do these things, I won't get killed at a young age. And that was a whole generation and they took rock and roll away and they replaced it with rap. And it'd be one thing if, like, let's say like girls. Yeah, the Motley Crue is, sex and whatnot, but then you also have Striper. Like you can go all over the the lyrical
Christian rock.
Yes.
You go all over the lyrical rainbow with metal. And of course you're gonna have Good Morning Black Friday on P Cells, but then you're gonna have P Cells. Like it's all over the place. P Cells is not the most positive album as far as lyrical content, but that's P Cells. But then you get to Rust in Peace, where you got Take No Prisoners, then you got Tornado of Souls. Like we're all over the place. But with rap, you got the one song on Straight Outta Compton, Express Yourself. I would be shocked. I'd love to see a pie chart of all the rap songs ever written that are popular. You can't discount like random SoundCloud rappers that have like 12 views, but all of the songs that are popular, how many of them are about just straight up violence? and the media backs them like these people are fighting the good fight. But anyone that has institutional power behind them is not rebelling. Like if you're on MTV, you're not a rebel. You're the face of a major corporation. And if you're the face of a major corporation, you're not standing up for the little guy. And this is why I hate Rage Against the Machine so much. Rage Against the Machine has always been rage for the machine. Tom Morello went to Harvard. If you're smart, you do well on your SATs and you take AP, you're not getting into Harvard. Harvard is for people that are already politically connected. You go to Ivy League schools because you're trying to keep that family legacy and that prestige up. It's a group of the people that are trying to make people think that there are people in the system that are fighting against it, and the system is not what you think. But if you are a face of MTV, you are part of the system. And that's what gangster rap was. It didn't start in small clubs and then it made its way. Like Straight Outta Compton was huge. And then they pretend, oh, you don't know what it was like at the time. It's like, okay, well, you know what? A mega multinational corporation decided to put it in everyone's home. And yeah, so no, I am not a fan of rap. The music itself is questionably music. And if it didn't have the effect that it did on not just one generation, but multi-generation, then I'd be more lenient on it. It is the only genre that I genuinely despise. And I would push a button and I would remove everyone associated with it from the planet. And I am pro censorship because some things need to be shielded from people. Like you wouldn't want your children watching pornography. Like it's not, even though maybe one day they may do an act like that with a husband or a wife, but they still don't need to be seeing it because when you're developing, your brain is affected in certain ways, and we are attracted to violence. I do like on the off chance I watch a movie, it'll probably be a violent action movie. Have you ever seen Invasion USA? It's a movie where Chuck Norris has to kill all the terrorists. It's
probably because that's all my parents watched growing up. So.
It's awesome. It's mindlessly violent, but it's just like Chuck Norris versus like 4,000 terrorists in Atlanta, and it's wonderful. But
he read The Art of War.
He is the art of war. But there's a line between fantasy violence and like Chuck Norris doesn't go out and say like, look, if you see a terrorist, you kill him. Because the idea of a terrorist is still kind of abstract. Like what is, terrorist, freedom fighter, like whatever. So you wouldn't just see like, that guy's got a beard and a turban. He must be a terrorist. Like no one would, I mean, some people might make that generalization, but no one would promote if you see a Middle Eastern guy, he's a terrorist, kill him. But the rap industry does glorify. Like, look how much street cred I have. Like, that's a thing they throw out, street cred. So you don't need your kids that are developing to take that in because they're going to think that's normal.
Well, I see that you're very passionate about this. And you could talk for days on end and maybe give a TED Talk on it.
I would love to give a TED Talk on it, but instead I have a podcast where we talk about it.
Right.
And that's what I love about, Guitars for Vets, because you are providing guitars, and we do believe that, hey, not only with vets, but give a kid a guitar and teach them how to play it. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about your role there. And how, all the good things you got going on there.
Great. Well, yeah. Thank you for having me on to have this opportunity to share this nonprofit with you guys. I've been working with it for 8 years now. I myself am an Air Force veteran, non-combat, so I never deployed to a war zone, but you can still get PTSD issues, whether you fight in combat or not. So I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2021, just a little caveat there. But in 2016, I started the first chapter here in Omaha, Nebraska, Middle America. And, the reason why I pursued that was just because I was looking for a way to combat the 22 a day statistic of veterans taking their lives in our community. And I played guitar, and just that was the resource that I had that I knew I could use. So I Googled free guitar lessons for vets, and up popped this website. So that's kind of a little bit how I got started. So I built the chapter here in Omaha, and then eventually in 2020, I got invited to come work up at the national level. So now I work as the national development director, and work with our program nationwide. So we are a program that provides 10 weeks of basic guitar instruction. We teach basic chords, basic strumming patterns. When a veteran comes to us, we will provide them with the practice equipment so that they have all the resources they need. Nothing comes out of their pocket. And we teach the lessons individualized to the needs of the veteran. So each veteran that comes to us has a unique set of circumstances that they're dealing with. It could be a traumatic brain injury. It could be an injury to their hand. It could be any number of things, memory loss, what have you, that we're working with here. So we individualize the lessons to just give them the basics as much as they can handle for that 10 weeks. And so at the end of the 10 weeks, when they graduate, they are gifted their own acoustic guitar case, guitar stand, strings, tuners, capos, the works, the accessory package. And then our hope and goal from there is to keep them coming back for weekly or monthly jam sessions. And our whole mission here is to restore purpose, passion, joy, and community back into the life of our veteran. I know firsthand all too well that with PTSD and social anxiety and the things that we deal with, the depression, we're very inclined to withdraw from everything and lock ourselves into a home and just do our best to try to feel safe in a controlled environment. After my diagnosis, I really got into battling this because I figured, my kids have seen me at my worst. I'm not going to go out like that. I want them to remember me at my best. And so that's what I've been striving for these past 3 years. And working with other veterans nationwide with this program, I just do my best to get out there on platforms and in front of faces and places just to say, please, help support our program. I know on the outset, it looks like it's just guitar lessons. But the beauty of it is this is a resource that draws people out of their homes into a community of support where you're surrounded by people that go, yeah, I understand what you're dealing with. I feel you. And, we don't have to talk about it, but let's play music. And we have just spent a long time talking about why when you play music, what happens in your brain. Yep. And so, I tell my vet, don't focus so much externally on what's happening and thinking that because you didn't nail that chord that you're failing. I'm like, this is healing your brain physically. And that's what I want you to take away. 10, 15 minutes a day, just work on this. And, it's going to physically change you. And testimony after testimony after testimony of how this has impacted people's lives from where, I used to go pick up a drink. Now I go pick up my guitar. I pick up my guitar and 5 hours later, I'm like, whoa, time blindness, time disappears. But you're not thinking about securing your home perimeter because you're afraid something bad's going to happen. And you've just spent 5 hours playing guitar. It's spouses coming up to us and saying, he used to lock himself in his room and not talk to us. And now he comes out and he's excited and animated about showing us guitar. It's having spouses and children come through with the vet. Sometimes they'll do lessons together. And what we've witnessed is not are they just acquiring a skill, they're regaining their self-confidence. They are becoming leaders in their homes and their communities again. And it seems almost far-fetched to say that's the caveat was this resource that did this. But it does give you a reason to get up in the morning. It does give you a reason to connect with other people. It does provide a sense of safety. When I hold my guitar in front of me, I feel safe. There's just this psychological thing that says there's a barrier between me and you, and I'm okay. I'm safe, You think about what a lot of soldiers have carried around in combat. very similar. They were holding a weapon. Well, this is a different kind of weapon now. Now this is your weapon to battle the invisible war, you know. So I am just very passionate about this program. And right now, I know you guys are in the California area. We have several chapters out there. I brought them up here in California alone. We have La Jolla, Loma Linda, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Martinez, North Hills, Santa Rosa, Victorville, and believe it or not, and Grass Valley. Don't let me leave out Grass Valley. That is not enough chapters in California because of traffic and how cities spread out and traveling and stuff like that. We could definitely use way more chapters in California. But especially if I could put out a special call and request today, we have a Loma Linda chapter with veterans right now that are waiting to go through this program. We just lost our chapter coordinator. He retired, faithful volunteers so long, many, many years. But, you know, he wanted to step down, and we just haven't found a volunteer yet in that area to step up as a chapter coordinator. So if you guys have anybody that might show interest to be a chapter coordinator, you do not have to play guitar. You do not have to be a veteran. You just have to be that communicator that is willing to orchestrate a schedule, make some phone calls, make things happen there. But that was a special caveat. Thank you for letting me put that out there. But, you know, if people are interested in learning more about our program, they can definitely visit our website at guitarsforvets.org. You can learn all about where our chapters are located. You can learn about our cyber program. During COVID, during lockdown, we built this program so that we could reach our veterans anywhere. And that's been tremendously successful and very well supported. Donations wise, you know, financial donations are huge. We need them because the more veterans we graduate, 3 or 5 more come in their place ready to go through the program, because they're our best form of advertisement. You know, check out my guitar. I went through this program. And so we're very rapidly growing and evolving faster than we're able to fundraise. So sponsorships and donations, you can find out how to do more of that on our website. Also, you know, in terms of donations, we take equipment. So guitars, drums, trumpets, whatever kind of equipment you have. If it's able to be restored, we'll sell it on the Reverb store, and that money goes towards purchasing the guitars for our vets. And so 2 questions that I normally get is like, what has to be wrong with me as a veteran to go through the program? That, you know, I say in my area, if you can get your dentist to give you a referral, like, then that's fine enough for me. But for other areas, it could be that you have to be going through the PTSD program. So it's per chapter what the requirements are to get you into the door. But I think for the most part, we're looking at people seeking support for their mental health and physical ailments that they're dealing with and getting treatment for. So we're kind of a supplement to that treatment. So that's one way. What was the other thing I was going to say? I forgot the other one. But it's about $1,000 per vet to go through the entire experience, to supporting the practice equipment and making sure they have all those accessories, to the graduate package and everything they take away there. But we are, you know, always looking for that financial support. And just if you can go share our social media pages, that's huge too, because what we want is for our veterans to know we're out there, because we can't serve them if they don't know we exist. So having opportunities like speaking on your podcast today, somebody somewhere is going to hear about this program, and, you know, it's going to change their lives. It truly is life changing. I've just always had a passion for it, so it's always been a part of my life. But now I'm serving. Well, gosh, this past weekend I graduated a 88-year-old Vietnam veteran. Wow. He played, and for me, I take that very personal. I lost my birth father. He was a Vietnam vet, and he died when I was 3 from PTSD. He took his life, and so I grew up not knowing him, and nobody talked about him because people didn't talk about that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until my 20s that somebody showed a picture of him to me, and I was looking at a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man holding a guitar, and that was the moment I realized I had lost my person that was supposed to teach me guitar, that I was supposed to learn from. And, I'll never know his favorite song and, the style of music he liked or whatever. So when I served these Vietnam vets, to me, that's like full circle moment. That's like serving my father, but we've graduated people from 90 years old to in their 20s. And it's just a phenomenal program that really, again, doesn't just impact the veteran, but the veteran's family as well.
Yeah, no, and I think the work you're doing is really important and needed, and very thankful we have people like you out there and that your organization exists. Also, to close out the episode, can we use one of your songs?
My songs are very like kind of country. I don't know. Does that fit your metal?
We had a Kelly
pocket?
Clarkson song.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the guitars from Kelly Clarkson on. We played a Kelly Clarkson song. So yes, country's perfect.
So I will tell you, "Open Road" was the first song that I wrote, and that was just about how the only time I feel like I'm at home is when I'm traveling, because my whole life, like I can't take my kids to all the places that I grew up around the world. But I remember traveling to see my son down in Little Rock. He's a C-130 pilot in the Air Force. And here I was passing this like one tree again. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, seeing that tree makes me feel like I'm at home. Like, and that's when I realized I travel so much because that's the only way I feel at home. And so that's what that song is about. But right after I wrote that song, Hulu Disney contacted me for a project called It's All Country. And it's on the 100 years of country music and its impact in the world. And they heard my story on a podcast and they were like, we want to tell your story. Da, 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 da. And by the way, do you have a song? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I do. And that's how I got into recording music and writing my own songs. So Open Road, you can share that one. The other one that means a lot to me is I wrote a song called Like You Mean It. And it's about one of the veterans that I became very close with that graduated our program. He was one of the first year. He was one of our first graduates, but he was in his 70s when I met him. And over time, we became very close. And he, being a Vietnam vet, he shared with me one of his stories, which was him and a couple of guys had come back from Vietnam, and he didn't want to go to war. Nobody did really, but he was so ashamed of himself, and so they had made a suicide pact, and they were going to take their lives. They were going to crawl into a trash can, take their lives, and then like nobody would even have to discard of them. That's where their mindset was. But somehow, I believe it was his brother-in-law came and found him and took him home. But his other friends went through with the suicide pact. And like he dropped that on me in a fundraiser in the middle of Chick-fil-A. And I remember just kind of going numb and hollowing myself out and just allowing him to tell that story. And that's when I kind of realized, like, I can't take that man's pain away. I can't even say something like, well, it'll get better. Like, what do you say to that? I actually apologize. I'm sorry that you have to carry that. And, thank you for trusting me enough to share that. By the way, I had permission to share this story. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I can't take your pain away, but I can sit with you. We can play guitar, if you're ever having a bad day and whatever. That's when I learned that we journey with people in pain. We can't fix it. We can't make it better. But there's a lot of people uncomfortable with pain and they don't want to see you struggle. They don't want to see you. We're pleasure seeking humans, pain avoiding. So many people don't know how to hold that safe space for somebody who's just going to be angry and who's just going to hate the world and not be able to cope with good things like the holidays. Why does my loved one get so angry around the holidays? Well, what I learned was good stress is still stress and my body doesn't know the difference. And so you feel unsafe. So Arden taught me so much, and we became very close, and he became like, this man used to give me gas money. I'm like, I'm a grown woman, honey. Like, I don't need your gas money. But he took such good care of me, and he was always with tears in his eyes thanking me for doing this. And I was like, it's just guitar. I didn't do anything, you know. He called me to his deathbed. He was dying, and literally his lungs were failing. And I remember he every nurse and doctor that would walk into the room, he was like, she's the one that does guitars for vets. And then he gave me like that deathbed speech that was like, you changed my life. Keep doing this because it makes a difference. Keep working on our brothers and sisters, you know, getting these resources out there for them. Like, the man's actively dying. So you know what? He was not wasting his breath in that moment. And so I vowed to him, I was like, I will work double as hard now, you know. And so a couple months after he passed last November, I was sitting in his neck of the woods, actually over in Iowa, and just a thought came to me, and I, in like one sitting, just write this song about him. And that's my favorite song. It's called Like You Mean It. And it just really is about how we used to have these conversations of his regrets in life and what he would have done differently and what changed with him when he found God. And then even though he had God, he still had not found a place where he could make peace with his past. And it wasn't till he came into Guitars for Vets that he found that. I don't know. How do you put that into words? How do you put that into a song, you know? And so I feel like he kind of wrote that song with me. And it's just, that's my favorite song. So you pick whatever you want.
Well, since it's your favorite song, we'll probably go with Like You Mean It. And that it's not a band attached to it. It's just Taylor Ullom.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much.
Self-recorded with all mistakes and all.
Oh, yes. It's raw. I know.
It is very raw.
Oh, excited to check that out. Everyone, go follow Guitars for Vets. Check them out. And thank you again, Taylor, for your time. You've been a wonderful guest. Please, stay in touch and come back anytime. And definitely, stay safe out there.
DJ AC, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
He was 73 when he met me. He saw things in me I couldn't see myself. He talked a lot about cars and I taught him guitar. Sometimes we shared invisible scars from hell. Vietnam vet with deep regrets told me things I'll never forget. Always put the good Lord first. Run to him when you are hurting and love your family every day. Keep every promise that you make. Give yourself for all your mistakes. Don't get stuck there, you gotta change your ways. Just be grateful for every little minute. And always live your life like you mean it. Last November he passed away. I still think of him and advice he gave. I remember him every time